Hey folks, welcome back to Edu Steps, powered by Laddering Your Success. I'm your host, Olay, and today we're tackling a subject that affects students, educators, and professionals at every level: imposter syndrome. Have you ever felt like you don't belong in a class, job, or social group? Even when the evidence says you do, you're not alone. And today we're going to flip the script and show you why you absolutely deserve to be here. I just want to start off by saying a happy weekend, happy Sunday. We got Festus. Festus, how you doing today?
Doing well, as always, doing well. I hope everybody's having a wonderful weekend.
Absolutely, man. You're doing well, enjoying that weekend. So got some good sun, man. Head shining really well. Crawford, Dr. J, how you doing today, my good sir?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome, man. Love that mustache, man. Very jealous. We don't have the final in our foursome. That's Daniel Hill. He was a little under the weather, so just sending him some well wishes and prayers that as he's recuperating and getting better. So talked to him earlier today. He said he's getting better, so I'm glad to hear that. But let's jump in and let's talk a little bit about imposter syndrome, just in case we're not too familiar with what it is. Imposter syndrome hits hard, especially during moments of transition, starting in high school, college, or a new career. Studies show up to 7 out of 10 people experience it at some point in their life. So today we're going to be talking about breaking down the myths, recognizing your worth, and practical ways to silence your inner critic with evidence and action. And of course, usually when we talk about these things, we use the system that we use here at Laddering Your Success, which is the be, know, do system. Be, understanding your values, principles, characteristics. Know, knowing where your resources are and how do you get access to them, how do you utilize them, how do you use them, and do. How do you take who you are, what you know, and use it to create a plan which you execute? We call that doing with excellence. So we're going to start off with being, understanding imposter syndrome from the B perspective. So as I said before, imposter syndrome is that nagging voice that whispers, I'm a fraud, I got lucky, or I'm not as good as they think I am. It was first described in 1978, and one of the key things to note here are accomplished individuals. So we're talking about doctors, lawyers, artists, students can feel like imposters despite clear evidence of their abilities. So who do you need to be to fight imposter syndrome, right? You need to be aware of who you are. You need to be self-compassionate. You need to be willing to challenge your doubts with facts. Studies published in the International Journal of Behavioral Science show that awareness is the first step in combating imposter feelings, right? So I'm going to turn to the squad here to ask my first question. Why do y'all think high-achieving students and professionals can be hardest hit by imposter syndrome?
I guess I'll start off with like a little bit of a story, right? There was a hurricane coming, and as the hurricane was coming, they say the strongest part of the hurricane, there's two strong parts: the eye of the storm and then the tail, from my understanding. So the eye of the storm is where all the power and wind is. The tail is where all the rain is. If I'm understanding this correctly, and so with that being said, the trees that had little roots, they tended to fall first when the eye started to come closer, and so the ones that had deeper roots were able to weather the storm more. And I think that's true about human beings, right? Is that when we go through transitions in life, when we accomplish things in life, oftentimes that comes with a bit of turbulence, a bit of trial. And when we have deep roots, knowing who we are, knowing where we come from, knowing what we're about and why we're doing what we're doing, it's a lot easier to not feel like an imposter. And I think that is true about the whole aspect of being, in terms of getting educated, getting a job, those different types of things. If everything is true on your resume, then you're just stating what is true. If everything is you're if you're doing your actual work in class and you're not ChatGPT or any of them other things, that's true. That's truly you. That's your output. And so I think one of the major things is that then builds confidence, right? To be able to, weather those storms. So that's my 2 cents.
I think that it comes with a lack of self-confidence. Like those individuals, the students and the professionals have done all the hard work to get to where they are, but it could be an intimidation factor once you get into this space and your peers are that have more experience than you are there, and you might doubt your sense of belonging or doubt that you belong there. But if you look at your accomplishments and you did what you needed to do to get there, that starts from within, and then you can show that you are an asset. For me specifically, when I do get in a place based on what I know and things of that nature, like I came into a new position full-time, and when I hear other people speak, like I'm quiet at first, and when I hear other people speak, it did nothing but confirm that, how do I say this?
That you are him.
No, nah. Nah. But I would say it's confirmation that I have the knowledge and experience to be here. It's just, how do I now navigate this? Because in the education field, I'm trying to figure out the best way to put this, especially
put it this way: you swagging on a job, and now that you're swagging on a job, you showing these suckers that they don't really know what they like to think that they do.
No, I'm not saying that at all. But in college, one of the things that are interesting to me is that you don't necessarily have to know how to teach to be a professor. You just need to know the content. And with me having all of my education and experience in teaching and knowing how to teach, I'm seeing a lot of back and forth things of that nature. So all it does is confirm that I am supposed to be in the room. I just have to figure out how to navigate communicating the things that I know from my experience. So going back to the point that I feel like once the students or the professionals are confident and they first rationalize and be reasonable with themselves that, hey, I've done all the hard work that is required of me to be here. I've proved myself worthy to be here. Now all I have to do is believe it for myself and act on it and show my worth.
Definitely. Love it. So the next thing I wanted to go over with everyone is this next question, which is, in your experience, just kind of in education, working with students, who would you say is most vulnerable or more vulnerable to imposter syndrome? Would you say it's more first gens, more minorities, more perfectionists, more people with that mindset that they have to be perfect in everything? Who would you say is more vulnerable to possibly dealing with something like imposter syndrome?
I would say people who deal with heavy anxiety. People who deal with anxiousness and anxiety, I think, may be more prone to imposter syndrome. And again, that's just an educated guess, because it's always what tends to happen there is overthinking. Although I've made these accomplishments, I did what I need to do to be here. Am I good enough? Is what I'm showing good enough? So maybe people who deal with anxiety.
Yeah, I would say people who maybe are a little bit more introverted too, in addition to that, because they might not be able to talk, they might be good at something, but not quite talking about what they're good at or talking to people to get feedback. So, let's say, for example, if they're maybe top 10 in their class, top 10 on the job, whatever, But at the same time, because they're a little bit more introverted, they might not get that feedback that lets them know that, hey, man, you're doing a really good job. And so if people don't volunteer that information to them, then they might feel like imposters.
Love it. So I'm hearing introverts and people with lots of anxiety. The one that I thought, or that came across quite a bit as I was doing a little bit of research, was upbringing. So I know a lot of that may have to do with the way young people are being raised, right? So if parents, if kids are kind of hearing juxtaposed messages, right? Like, you can do great, but parents are also being very critical, that can kind of send mixed messages for a lot of students and lead to a lot of kind of confusion or not really being set in who they are and what looks good, right? So when you see first gen minorities, perfectionists, I think there are, anxiety built up within those things, introverted personalities, because I can definitely see both of those just playing a huge part. If you're introverted and you don't really have anyone to talk to about the things you're going through, and your parents are constantly putting this pressure on you, society is constantly putting this pressure on you, anxiety will build. And I think one of the most important things I've learned is anxiety is essentially the low fuel light that comes on your car while you drive, right? It's not necessarily a condition. It is a condition, but it's more or less your body's response to something. It's your body letting you know that, hey, we're overwhelmed. We need to take a look at our surroundings and figure out what we need to do to kind of get back on track, right? So thank you so much for that, for that input. Let's
Hey, LYS fam. It's Olay once again. These days, many families are busy but want personalized attention. We at Laddering Your Success understand this dilemma and have created a unique approach to help guide you and your child with personal development tools to build a life of purpose. This intimate approach is helpful for those parents that feel the need to have a focused heart-to-heart conversation deciding on the next steps after high school. We provide individual post-secondary planning, virtual customized college and career counseling, and scholarship guidance and planning. Our one-on-one sessions are tailored to each individual student to maximize their potential in the post-secondary realm. With our guidance, your child will be able to make their dreams a reality. Don't wait. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to business on this podcast.
transition a little bit into the no perspective, right? So we're going to talk about the signs. Imposter syndrome isn't just feeling nervous before a test. It could be discounting your accomplishments, right? You did something really big and you're like, yeah, everyone else did it. It's not that big a deal. This fear of being found out that you're a fraud or something, having a hard time accepting praise, or even overworking to prove that you belong in a certain place, or overworking to prove yourself. This does hit a lot of first-gen college goers, professionals, and even educators. Some research shows that imposter feelings are really common among high-achieving students, minorities, and anyone entering a rigorous new environment, areas that can build a lot of anxiety, right? Well, why does it happen? High personal standards, fear of making mistakes, lack of representation, perfectionism. So in 2020, some analysis found out that these feelings are linked to anxiety, depression, and burnout if they're left unchecked, right? If it's not dealt with. So with that being said, in regards to the no perspective, right? A lot of our folks, we use social media, we use highlights and reels to get a lot of our information or keep us entertained. How do you feel that social media and highlight reel culture fuel these feelings of inadequacy or not belonging, if they do?
Well, I'll answer that question two ways. I think one way is social media allows you to feel accomplished, even though you haven't quite necessarily accomplished anything in real life. So you post it, you get the likes, you get the the hearts and things like that, and you can feel accomplished, but maybe you didn't really do it in real life yet. Now let me go to the other end and say, hey, you're able to post real life accomplishments. And sometimes that's encouraging because, again, some people can't be there. People want to be there for you, but you go to graduation, you only get 4 graduation tickets per family, or something like that, where your graduation is out of town. You ringing the bell. You just got cancer diagnosis. You beat cancer, and not everybody could be there for you in that moment. And social media allows you to share those moments with people who aren't there with you. And sometimes it might be friends that you just, you're good friends, but you just don't talk to regularly, and so they're able to see that and say, wow, I didn't even know that person was going through that. Good for them. And so I think it could play out both ways. And so this is where being, genuine and authentic to yourself, to your calling, to your purpose, to your family, to your community, it makes all the difference in the world, because I think though that becomes the actual measure, right? And not just depend on people's approval and whatnot.
Another angle, in addition to what Festus is saying, is that if I'm the person who's watching the highlight reels on social media and so on and so forth, I might develop imposter syndrome, because now I'm comparing what I can do versus what I'm seeing another colleague or student or classmate constantly posting. If I'm a student and this student is constantly posting how they have accomplished this goal in school and accomplished this, I got an A on this test, I'm now head of this club and this and this and that, right? Or they got this scholarship and so on and so forth. Although I may have the same level of grades and things of that nature, but I'm constantly seeing that I might develop imposter syndrome, because maybe I'm thinking in my mind that I'm trying to live up to this person and maybe I'm not good enough, or so on and so forth.
Man, that's such a powerful point. That's such a powerful point. And I think, especially for our young people, and just, shout out to Festus for even early on introducing me to folks like Pat Flynn and Gary Vee. Gary Vee was doing a interview with Rashad and Troy of Earn Your Leisure, who I love their podcasts and their interviews. Gary Vee was saying in the next 10 years, all content's going to be like AI generated. And you think about what young people are, going to be exposed to at that time. But even right now, one of the first things we did when we first did our LYS presentation is we made sure to say that the things you see on social media are not what they see. Do not take what you see on social media as gospel. And to your point, Crawford, I think that happens to a lot of these young folks. They see, whether it's physical clothes that they're wearing, cars that they're driving, places that they live, just their lifestyle, the way they live, the things that they do. We now put that into our ecosystem, into our ethos, and we now say that, man, this is what I need to attain to be happy, right? Something that you saw on your phone, when in reality, it's an Airbnb, it's a Turo rental, it's this, it's that, it's just all for fodder. Right. Even I was having another conversation with Festus. He was saying the more I go out and I talk to people and I see people and we do these different things, I realize that a lot of it is just cap. A lot of people are just saying things just to say it for saying sake. And I think it's truly important to get young people to realize that, especially when it comes to the social media stuff. It's like it's sometimes it's so simple that it's hard to it's hard to comprehend how simple it is, right? Know who you are, know what resources are around you, and execute with excellence, right? If you can't execute excellently, execute as best as you can and grow better, right? Put yourself around the types of people that are doing the things, not online, unless you can actually see them, right? Or unless you're aligned with them in values, and people that you trust can verify that, but execute with excellence, right?
Can I just throw on a little point there?
Oh, yes, sir.
Me and a client this week, she was singing a song, and I thought this song was our elementary school theme song. Is good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is your better, and your better is your best. Now, I used to think that's our school theme song. We used to sing that every morning. Our school was Betty Best Elementary. And so when I heard her singing it, this lady's, a few decades older than me. She's almost 90. And I'm thinking, how does she know the words of this song? And to me, when we talk about pursuing excellence, your best, you don't know yet. Until you've given your full effort, that's when you know you did your best. And I think that's the thing, is that in life, when it comes to us accomplishing and doing great things, sometimes we kind of have a pedestal moment where we're like, I'm gonna give it my all for this moment. Like in sports, you're trying to make this outrageous play, and I just got to make this play. And then sometimes we live based off of just that. And so we feel like failures when we don't accomplish, or when we don't get it done exactly how we want to. But the thing is, did you give your full effort? And to me, once you've given your full effort, you're on your way to doing your best, which is creating a track record of pursuing excellence. So when you plan and you say, hey, I want to do this, this, and this, you don't have to feel like an imposter just because you didn't meet certain goals, meet certain deadlines, things like that. The biggest thing, are you pursuing giving your best effort each time? And when you give your max effort, your best is the outcome. You see what I'm saying? And you can't be so outcome focused that, oh man, I didn't do it this way, versus saying, I gave my max effort. That was the best I had in that moment, and I could do more later. I could learn from it and get better later. So I just want to throw that out there for anybody who feels like, man, what is excellence, or you're not feeling like you are doing excellent work.
Definitely.
Hey, LYS fam, it's Olay. Thanks so much for listening to LYS. I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk to the parents. That's right, mom and dad. Parents, prepare your child for their best educational fit after high school with our comprehensive LYS Parents Guidebook. Our helpful guide includes a range of activities designed to help you better understand your child's unique gifts and abilities. Additionally, we provide valuable insights into the student loan debt crisis and offer practical tips on how to avoid accumulating large amounts of debt. Our ebook also includes a wealth of information on scholarships, grants, and payment exemptions that can help guide your child towards a bright and successful future. With our expert guidance, you can rest assured that your child is well prepared to make informed decisions about their education and career path. Don't let your child's future be in jeopardy. Invest in their future today by downloading the LYS Parents Guidebook. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to the show, because it's some good topics.
All right. So I have another question for the squad here. How can our young people, how can we separate healthy humility from the negative effects of self-doubt? Self-doubt a lot of times can be almost crippling, especially when you're young and you may not have the resources or those people around you that kind of keep you on the straight and narrow. So how can we separate healthy humility from the negative effects of self-doubt?
I think that is when we are having those moments of self-doubt. This is where we have to do the mental work, and that is being rational and reasonable. So whatever we're doubting ourselves on, students and professionals, whatever that context is, let's stop and think about, first thing, have I done everything that is in my control to put forth my best effort in accomplishing whatever the task may be? If that is the case, then there are certain things that are out of our control, such as we cannot control what other people think of us. We cannot control what other people think of the work that we do. But what we can control is, based on the information that we have or the expectations for said task, is make sure that we're actually doing our best. So if I'm a student, if that is performing well in a class or in a club or so on and so forth, okay, did I study? If I know this is something I want to accomplish, let me first do the work, put forth my best effort. If there's something that I'm uncertain about, or there are other options, can I go get tutoring? Can I communicate for help? For my professionals, same thing. Is there someone who is more knowledgeable in this area, who has experience? Let me go pick their brain. Have I exhausted all resources? Those are the things that are within your control. And if you did do that, then know it is okay. Everything is not perfect. And it's a good thing when things aren't perfect, because you can now become a student of that particular experience and become better moving forward. So once we try to sit down, rationalize, and be reasonable in that space, then it's nothing for us to be worried about. Now, if the answer to that is no, we didn't put forth our best effort, now we know what actionable steps we can do. We can now put forth the effort to improve the outcome of what we're trying to attain.
So wonderful advice. Wonderful advice. Festus, did you have anything on that, man?
No. Let's continue.
Okay, bet. All right. So we've talked about the B. We've talked about the no. Now we're going to get into the work, right? As Festus mentioned earlier, the hard work, doing the work, action steps to own your success. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly go over to some things that you can do. And thank you so much, Dr. J, because you already hit on a couple of those things, right? So here's what you can do to push back against imposter syndrome. First thing I want to tell you is congratulations, you have imposter syndrome. According to the stat, 7 out of 10 people have it as well. So guess what? That means if you're in a room with 10 people, at least 7 people are going through what you're going through right now. Or at least, let me say 6, including you, right? So normalize it. 70% of people, even experts, report that they have imposter thoughts. You're in good company, right? Second thing you need to do, track your wins. Keep a journal of the things that you do. Write down the small and the big accomplishments. Look at that progress in writing, right? It can help combat that negative self-talk that you give yourself. Reframe a mistake. Think of a mistake as a new opportunity to grow, right? Next, use social support. I think if there's anything that me personally that I say that I think can help you right now, today, tomorrow, it would be sending a text to one of your close friends and say, hey man, I'm going through this, or give them a call, right? Building community is one of the most powerful things I've seen in the last 5-10 years, right? Talk to mentors, talk to friends, talk to counselors. Research shows that simply voicing your concerns is going to reduce some of those feelings just by talking to someone, right? And affirm your expertise. Tell yourself that you know what you're doing. Reflect on the work you've done to get somewhere. You did not get lucky. Your effort got you there as well, right? Or your effort got you there, right? One last thing, whenever you hear yourself saying, man, I don't deserve this, or, you just got lucky, ask yourself, what evidence makes that negative thought that you're telling yourself? What evidence makes that true? And a lot of times when you look for the evidence, you won't be able to find it, right? It's something that you are doing to yourself to bring yourself down, right? So a lot of this has to do with rewiring the way you think about things, rewiring mistakes, rewiring the fact that you're the only person that looks like you in a room at a certain meeting or at a certain place or event. It's rewiring the fact that you won an award. It's rewiring the fact that you're one out of 1,000 people who are able to accomplish a certain feat, right? A lot of it is rewiring the way you think about those things and accepting yourself for who you are. The question I asked previously was about humility, right? And it's one of the 3 things we teach in our presentations: humility, discipline, and integrity. And humility is described, or at least my definition is thinking of yourself soberly, thinking of yourself sober-minded, right? So I don't think I'm better than anybody. I don't think I'm below anybody. I think we're all on the same page, right? We're all on the same level playing field, right? So just some things to think about there.
Hey, LYS fam, it's Olay. You know, if there's one thing I love, it's something free. I'm talking free 99, un gratis. No shipping or handling fees, no gotcha fees, nothing like that. With that being said, if you're graduating soon or thinking about college or need a nudge or help to decide, then our free ebook, 10 Things to Think About Before Going to College, has a very balanced and open-minded way of presenting your next steps. It captures broad topics in a personal way by giving students an insightful, interactive, and reflective source of inspiration. It is very beneficial to be able to visualize some of the concepts after high school and apply them directly to you. We all know life, college, and career planning decision-making choices for students can be challenging, especially as they near the completion of high school. This book will provide you with a self-paced guide to your success beyond academics and into real life. Not only is it free, you can complete this book within a week. This will definitely prepare you for long-term success. To get your free copy, simply go to lys.com/students. I mentioned it was free, right? Well, if I didn't, it's free. Like for real, for real. Okay, back to the podcast.
Question for the squad. How important is it to talk openly about self-doubt? Who is one person you share those feelings with, right? So that's my question for the squad. How important is it to talk openly about self-doubt? And who is one person you could share your feelings with? This could be when you're in high school, this could be now, okay?
I think it's extremely important to be able to talk about self-doubt because it allows you to, number one, get those negative thoughts out so they're not just stuck within. You have someone that you can trust to communicate that with. And it's good to have that conversation with someone you trust, because if you just need someone to listen, they can listen. But also, if you would like to pick their brain to see what they think, and most oftentimes it helps for them to point out the accomplishments or the hard work and the things that you have done to get to where you are. And it helps you internalize that positive reinforcement about yourself. So that definitely can help. So that's the first part of the question. I'm still trying to think of who I can share for the second part. So I'm gonna let Festus answer his question.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that, it's good to be open about it, but I think this is the hard part about imposter syndrome. Is imposter syndrome kind of underlying says that other people are doing better than you, or other people are more sure than you, at least, right? Like they deserve to be here, I don't, kind of thing. And I think that's what makes it hard to share, and it's interesting because they do these things about highly successful people. What makes them highly successful? And one of the things that makes them highly successful is their fear of basically people catching them, or their fear of everything failing. And so, you listen to, like, I like Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban, when he gives advice, he's like, somebody's out there trying to eat your lunch. And it's like, number one, you're a billionaire. You could afford more lunch. You know what I'm saying? You could afford more lunch. Okay. But then number two is like, okay, the fact that you have that sense of paranoia that somebody else is out there, that makes you more driven. Well, sometimes people who are feeling that imposter syndrome, they're not even aware that other people are not competing against them. That other people they're just living their own life and doing their own thing. And so because we're comparing ourselves like that, we're thinking, oh, you got something against me. And so now it makes it hard to share, And so that's the thing. I think, sometimes we have to decompress. Okay. We have to be willing to be open and try to find those people, a great group of guys here. I love you guys. To me, I think I'm a fairly open person. So sometimes, we just be talking about stuff, like we be lifting weights or doing something, and it's like, that's weird Festus said that. You know what I'm saying? But it'll just be like, okay, I'm just open. I'm transparent, so I'll just let it out. And so usually 9 times out of 10, if you're in my life, aside from family, no, I want all my family there. But if you're, if you're in my life, it's because I want you there, and so, to me, I just try to be, have the same level of trust and openness with everybody who's in my life. And granted, it does matter, how long you knew a person, all those things, but usually I try to watch out for the snakes. You know what I'm saying?
Remember that? What was that? Stump the Yard? All right, for sure, man. And I totally agree. I definitely, I'll say, since I probably switched churches about 2-3 years ago, it's when I really started to learn to be more open, but to your point, Festus, more selective on who I choose. It already takes a lot to become my friend. I feel like it's hard for me to make friends, not because it's hard, but it just takes a long time. I have to be very comfortable being open with you. And also, I'm a very loyal person. And so I think when you find those people, it's almost like through a set of tests, right? You're able to say certain things to them and see how they take it, see how they digest it. Festus, you always say you learn a lot about a person by the questions that they ask, right? And so, you use those things, you practice those things, and you're able to ascertain, this is a person that keep in my life, this is a good friend, right? And so I'm just thankful that, the word friend still means what it meant throughout, history. Yeah, I still take that definition very seriously. And so I think that's a great mode. That's a great thing for students. I used to tell my students, they would be like, how do you know someone's a good friend or someone's an honest or loyal friend? And I said, all right, this is what you do. I say, you tell them you like somebody, but it's someone that you don't really like. Or you tell them a secret that's not really a secret, but you just tell them. But you got to remember who you told. You told that one person. So like, you're my friend and I want to tell you this thing, but you can't tell anybody, okay? If that thing comes out, right? If it comes out, like I heard from so-and-so that you this, you that, all right, this ain't somebody that, all right, I can't. Man, you can still have them around, but you can't really tell them things, right? So that was just a little segue. I apologize. It just had me thinking about it. Dr. J, any final thoughts or anything you wanted to add before we move on?
No final thoughts. And I finally thought about the people I share with because I had to think about it. I forgot. But I share with my therapist, as well as I also have a coach. And so this will be for professionals. The coach is someone who does what I do and has a wealth of experience, and this a professional coach. And so I can communicate those things with her. And it was my professor from my chair. And so we have a real good relationship. We meet once a week for about an hour, and it's developing professional skills, gaining professional knowledge. Like every weekend, I can share that in that space, and she always challenges me to think greater and things of that nature. So that space, personally, who can I share with when I'm feeling inadequate and things of that nature? The group here, close friends, and just going to people to where the things that I aspire, such as like marriage. So I talk to Festus because I think he's the only friend I have that's actually married and still married. So I go to Festus, when I need someone for clarity and open thought. I of course go to my guy Olay. He's so patient, so patient. So I go to Olay. Unfortunately, I'm waiting for my boy D Daniel Hill to get his attention span up. I come to him, Oh, there's a joke. Hopefully he could watch this episode and laugh. But when I want to just laugh and just get my mind off of things and have a good time, Daniel Hill, that's my person to go to for sure. So just summing up everything you guys said, my family of friends and colleagues is why I go to talk to people.
Yeah. Give your life story. D Hill come back with a, yeah, man. You know that's how it be. Everybody got to give it up once or twice in their life. You're like, what? I love it, man. I love it. All right. So remember, folks, imposter syndrome wants you to shrink back, but your purpose wants you to step forward. Ask yourself, what is your why for being here right now? What unique perspective do you bring? I used to always tell my students, every single person has something that they do a little bit better than everybody else. What's that thing you bring to the table? Who are you impacting by owning your story? All right. Your journey isn't about being perfect. It's about progress. When you see yourself as someone worthy, your actions are going to change. Your mindset shifts from am I enough to how can I contribute? So I got a couple of questions for our young folks. I just want you to write them down, put them in your phone, just think about it throughout the week, right? So we're here talking about imposter syndrome. Here are the questions. What is one achievement you're proud of, even if it feels small? 2, when was a time, you overcame doubt and succeeded? And the last question, who is in your support circle? Who can remind you of your strengths? Remember, folks, if you're a parent, educator, or a friend, remind those around you that they belong. One encouraging word can change someone's story. All right. So, folks, listen, if imposter syndrome has been holding you back, try a new response this week. Journal your wins. Reach out for support. Start a conversation about it. For resources and worksheets, be sure to send out an email to info@ladderyoursuccess, where we can join you into our WhatsApp group for educators, students, and parents. Remember, you belong here and your work matters. Make sure to always walk in purpose, own your journey, and remember, doubt is very loud, but the evidence is even louder. Make sure you subscribe, you share, you share, you comment, and let's level up together. Until next time, let's keep stepping up. Festus, my good friend, go ahead and close us out with the phrase that pays, my sir.
Listen, y'all. Listen. There are legitimate excuses for not going to college. There's no legitimate excuse for not getting an education. Again, if you like what you heard today, hit the like button. If you know somebody who needs to hear this, hit the share button. And we will see you on the next episode.